I bring greetings of solidarity from 200,000 members in the northwest region of Unison. I also bring a message of thanks to 380,000 members in our union across local government and schools, council and school workers who started the ballot for industrial action on Wednesday. I don't think you understand how much courage and inspiration that brings, those 370,000, and it's been brilliant across virtual and actual rallies to share platforms with people from your union, with supporting unions, and that is what it's about.
What do we want? Equal pay. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Equal pay. When do we want it? Now. The money is there. Where's our pay? The money is there. Where's our pay? What do we want? Equal pay. When do we want it? Now.
How amazing is this that we've got so many people come down to support us today, and we've been out through the cold, the dark and the rain this week because we care about our students and we care about each other, and the one thing that separates us from the people at the top is love, care and solidarity, and no one can ever take that away from us. I have never seen so many students come out, support us on the picket lines, and I cannot tell you what difference that makes to all of us. We are so glad, and we know that the future of higher education rests on kind of sector that values staff, and a sector that values staff values students, and we have a better quality of education, so we are all in it together.
Make some noise, people! When they say cut back, we say cut back, cut back, cut back. The workers.
They say they're disappointed with the same management that fenced us in, that abandoned us during isolation, that ignored our mental health and never showed us any regard, to then turn around with the absolute gall and the absolute hypocrisy to say that they care about our welfare now because there's a strike and they care about how it affects us. They're hypocrites, and it's nothing but laughable. It's great that they're so disappointed by these strikes, because if they're so disappointed, they're the ones who have the power to turn around and end these strikes today. They're the ones that have the power to meet the UCU demands over fair pay and fair working conditions, but they won't do that, because what they'd rather do is try to pit students and staff against each other. What they'd rather do is try to make it seem as though we're enemies when we're not. We have the same enemy, and that is our university management and this Tory government. We're not going to do what they want us to do. We're not going to do what the Tory government wants us to do. We're not going to do what fat cat vice chancellors want us to do, because we know that the heart and soul of our university isn't fat cat vice chancellors and six-figure salaries. It's ordinary students and ordinary staff who make this university and our university special. And without us, they're nothing but wannabe CEOs and ex-CEOs on a board. And today is incredibly special, and I think these strikes, they are scared, because last year they were embarrassed, they were terrified by university rent strikes that won over £140 million across the country in rent rebates. And the University of Manchester in particular has never seen its reputation dragged to such low depths. And now they're scared because they never want to lose again. But we are going to win, and we're going to win again and again and again, because students and staff united will never be defeated.
It's an absolute pleasure to be here, and it's been a pleasure to be out with you every morning for the last 3 days, in the rain, in the cold, in the mist, in the sun. The sad fact of the matter is that as a so-called early career researcher, the only days where I can see any future for people like myself in HE are the days when we are on strike, because it is on those days that we see our colleagues willing to risk their salaries to fight precarity. We are able to speak to each other and our students and share our ideas without worrying if they're refable enough, without the shadow of metrics hanging over us at all times. And it is on these days when student occupiers remind us who the university belongs to. It belongs to those who run it. It belongs to those who learn in it, not to the managers who profit from it. I want to finish just by addressing quickly those colleagues who have made the conscious decision not to join us, those who sneak past our picket lines in the early mornings to teach. We know what they're called. We don't need to say it, but we know what they're called. I want to ask them, how much more are you going to take? How many more PGRs are you going to watch come into academia, knowing that they don't have a hope in hell of job security? How much longer are you going to sit on your arse while your colleagues go without pay on the picket lines? No more excuses. When you break a strike, you throw early career colleagues under the bus. So make a decision, choose which side you're on, and join us. Thank you, colleagues.
Now, we are very much latecomers to this industrial party. You might wonder why suddenly we're here, having not really had a presence. It was simply because our management decided to institute a catastrophically malicious and inept restructuring policy. What the fuck is restructuring? Yes, I think we know. Involuntary redundancies, and that made us militant. That made us very, very angry. And so, even though we're latecomers, we're very much here for the long term now, and we're building our support, and we will be with you. We're very proud and privileged to be part of the North West Union community and indeed the national movement.
The pay gap between black and white staff is 17%. The disability pay gap is 9%. The mean gender pay gap is 15%. And the current rate of change, it will not be closed another 22 years. I think we say enough is enough. We want the change now. Following the incredible, brilliant Black Lives Matter demonstrations, one after another university made statements to support the movement. However, in reality, they have done nothing concrete, because across the UK, the race pay gap has not disappeared, and institutionalized racism has not been acknowledged. We need to raise this issue. Our universities are institutionally racist. Let's make that clear.
Everybody teaching in higher education is really committed to the students. Nobody wants to have to go on strike. I've been 20 years in MMU. The turnout that we got for this action was the best we'd ever had, by about 25% more than we've ever had before. Absolutely fantastic. People have had enough. They have really had enough. They've had enough of the pay being cut. They've had enough of the workload pressure. They've had enough of casualisation being extended again and again. It's time for that to change now. I want to just make a couple of comments about things that have changed. First of all, just to say that at MMU, casualisation is such a big issue and a big problem. We've been campaigning for nearly 5 years to get our management to shift and bring associate lecturers onto permanent fractional contracts. We know as a result of that there are at least 403 staff teaching on casualised contracts at MMU, many of them on 0 hours contracts, never knowing when the next paycheck might be coming in, never knowing when the next lot of work might be coming in, never able to settle down to a life. You know what? That is bad for students. And students understand it. They understand why it's bad, why that's a lack of investment, why that's a lack of value for their education. There's something new happened this time. 2 new things I want to point out. The first thing that happened is that we at MMU have had unprecedented pressure on individual members of staff who aren't sure, maybe not in the union, including associate lecturers who are at risk of their jobs. And we have had emails, more emails, with people's names on. Will you break the strike? Will you go in and teach instead of your colleagues? And the emails, but the emails weren't enough. Not only did they get emails, they got texts on their mobile phones and direct phone calls. One of our members who was going in for an interview, associate lecturer, going in for an interview with a manager, got an email on the same morning as her interview from the same manager who was interviewing her, asking her to break the strike, and she did not. Takes incredible courage, and it's new that the employers are pressing us like this. They've not done it before, and we have not got to let it become normal. We have got to call it out. We have got to stop it. They cannot do this to our members.